Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating the stitch pattern that is used to make the Happy Holidays tree skirt and the Happy Holidays Christmas stocking. Both of these are free crochet patterns that you'll find on mooglyblog.com, and you'll find a link to those in the description below. For this video, I'm going to be using Lion Brand Vanna's Choice and a Furls K hook. This is the yarn, not necessarily this color, but this type of yarn, the Vanna's Choice, and the K hook are what you use to make the tree skirt. Now the stocking, which I have in front of me here, let me set those aside, is actually made with Lion Brand wool ease and a G hook, but I'm just going to use the bigger ones today to demonstrate. Now this stitch pattern, let me turn it upside down here. It's hard to get the whole stocking on video, and I apologize for that. Simply a matter of limitations here of technology, but we've got the stocking here, and the pattern is actually worked this direction. So this is the top of the stocking. We're actually working from the top down. And you can see what we're going to be making here is these scallops. And most of this is just double crochets, but there's one little trick to get that little dip in there in the stitch pattern. So let me set this aside and we'll begin. In the meantime, I do have to ask you to excuse the rasp in my voice. I've recently been diagnosed with pneumonia, so that makes it just a little bit extra fun, but we'll get through it here and I'll be able to show you how to make these patterns. Now, the tree skirt is worked in rows back and forth, and the stocking is worked in the round, but the basic stitch pattern is pretty much the same. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and work in rows. So I've got a few double crochets here. We can start either one with just a row of plain stitches, and then from here I'm going to turn, but first I'm going to chain two. And this pattern uses a lot of chain twos, none of which actually count as a stitch, so that's a good thing to keep in mind. Now we're working in rows, so I'm going to go ahead and just double crochet in the first 3 stitches. Let me bring it a little closer to the camera here. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then from here, what we want to do is set up to create that little dip on the next row. So to do that, what we do is we chain 2. Now again, this is a chain 2 that does not count as a stitch. This just helps move us around to where we want to be. Then I'm going to go to the next stitch right here, slip stitch in there, chain 2 again, and then just double crochet in the next 3 stitches. And that's our basic setup row repeat. Whether you're working in rows or in the round, you're going to be working a series of double crochets with this chain 2 slip stitch dip in between, for lack of a better term to call it here. Now, if you're working the tree skirt, you're actually going to be increasing in here, because that's what creates that expanding circular pattern. So for the tree skirt, you'll be increasing in between these dips. For the stocking, because it's worked even until you get to the heel, you don't increase in between. So for the purposes of demonstration, I'm not going to increase in between, but to increase in double crochet, you're just working a second double crochet in the same stitch as another one. Very simple. So let's continue on across here. I'm going to chain 2, work 3 double crochets in the next 3 stitches here. 1, let me pull up a little more yarn, 2, and 3, and we'll do one more dip here with a chain 2, slip stitch in the next, chain 2 again, and then we're just going to double crochet in the last 3 to help finish out our row here. So we've got that row done. Now at this point, generally speaking, it's going to be time to change colors. Again, it depends on the specific pattern. For this one, I'm going to be pulling up, this is cranberry and this is the fisherman color. A little bit easier to see against the white than pure white. Okay, so to add the new color, what I'm going to do is actually pull this last little loop out. What I want to do is finish the last stitch of this round with the new color. Now, whether I'm making the tree, when I'm making the tree skirt, then I'll just float the unused color along the sides so that I can pull it up and have it ready when I need it without having to cut it each time. If I'm making the stocking, I would just float the unused color along the inside of the stocking. So that way, again, I don't have to cut the yarn every time I make a new round. So once again, we're going to start with a chain 2 that does not count as a stitch. I'm going to turn, and anytime we work a new round or row with a new color, we're going to work in the back loop only. And that's probably the easiest way to remember it. Anytime you add a new color, it's back loop only. If you're working into the same color, you go ahead and work under both loops. So let's make 3 double crochets in the back loop only. If you're not familiar with back loop only, the back loop is of those top 2 loops. Let's pull it up real close here. Those top 2 loops, the back loop is always the one furthest away from you. So if I turn it around, this is the back loop. If I turn it this way, that's the back loop. So to work under the back loop only, we just go right in between those top 2 loops and just under the back one. So that is back loop only. So we'll work our 3 stitches in back loop only. And then this one, it's a little harder to work back loop only when you're working into a slip stitch, admittedly. So in this, just try and get in there as best you can. But we're going to do a chain 2, slip stitch in the same back loop as that last double crochet. And then here, we double crochet into that slip stitch. Remember, we came down and made a slip stitch in the middle there? We're going to work a double crochet, and again, don't try and worry about going into the back loop only of a slip stitch. That'll drive you crazy. Just go ahead and crochet into the slip stitch there. Then we're going to slip stitch in the next double crochet, this one right here. Oops, don't forget, back loop only. I forget all the time and have to pull it back out. So there we go, slip stitch. Then we chain 2 to get ourselves back up to working double crochets here. And then we make a double crochet in that same loop that we slip stitched to right there and in the next 2. So 1 and 2. And you can see we've got that dip happening already. So from here, we just keep repeating that. Chain 2, slip stitch in the same back loop as that last double crochet. Then double crochet, this time down in the slip stitch, like so. Then, in order to snug it up to the next side, we come over to the next double crochet and slip stitch to the back loop there. Chain 2 and double crochet in that same back loop only and the next 2. We've got one more dip for this row, so let's go ahead and do that together. We're going to chain 2, like so, slip stitch in that same back loop only, double crochet in the slip stitch down here at the bottom, that dipped slip stitch, then slip stitch in the back loop only of the next double crochet. You'll notice we're skipping those chain 2s all together. Chain 2 again, and then just double crochet in the last 3 stitches here. Back loop only, of course. Now when we come back the other way, I'm going to be working with the white, or fisherman in this case, color again. So for this row, I'm going to chain 2 and turn, but I'm going to go ahead and work under both loops. Now if I were working in the round, again, I would do the same thing. I would work in the back loop only for this round, and then the next round coming around, if that makes sense. The next round I'd work under both loops. So again, it's just when you add a new color that gives you a little extra edge there. So, coming back the other direction, I'm going to work 3 double crochets, and again, I'm just going to go under both loops this time. Excuse me, I need to pull up a little bit more of the fisherman colored yarn here, or off-white. So I've got my 3 double crochets, and then this is kind of where the basic stitch pattern gets established. We're going to chain 2, slip stitch in that same stitch there that we worked our last double crochet in, then come down and double crochet in the double crochet down here for our dip. Come over to this next double crochet, skip the chain 2 altogether, slip stitch in the next double crochet, like so. I always like to give it a little extra tug on the slip stitches, on these slip stitches, because I know they won't be worked into, just to make sure they're nice and tight. Then I chain 2, double crochet back in that same stitch, as well as the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2, and then we do it again. Chain 2, slip stitch in the same stitch. That brings us down a level. Double crochet in that dipped stitch there, and then slip stitch in the next double crochet. Pull that one nice and tight. Chain 2, double crochet in the same stitch and in the next 2 stitches. And I think you've probably got it now, but I'll go ahead and do this last dip here. Pull up a little bit more yarn. We'll chain 2, slip stitch in the same stitch as the last double crochet. Oops, dropped it right off my hook. Let's try that again. Same stitch as the last double crochet. Yarn over, double crochet in that dipped double crochet. Then slip stitch to the next double crochet, pull it tight, chain 2, double crochet in that one and the next 2. Let's go ahead and finish that off. And you can see we've got that scalloped pattern happening. And it seems to be growing a little bit at this point. It's just a matter of kind of expanding the stitch pattern, but we're not actually adding any stitches. It'll start working a little bit more evenly as we go here. I probably just had a little bit tight of a foundation chain here to begin with. But you can see when we turn it upside down then, like this, the tree skirt is worked from the center out. So we've got the scallops moving out. And let me grab that. Here we are. Sorry. There we are. The Christmas stocking again. You can see we've actually worked down this way so that our little dipped stitches are coming down right there. So again, this is worked in the round. You're just working in the back loop only when you add the new color, and then in both loops when you add the second color, just like with this. And then of course, if this was the tree skirt, these standard double crochets in between the dips, we'd be increasing in there. And that's how you get that circular shape with the tree skirt. So that is how you make the Happy Holidays patterns on Moogly. Again, you'll find both of these for free on mooglyblog.com. So please do check the links in the descriptions. And thank you so much for watching. Happy Holidays!